Hello and welcome to Provision-Isr's webinar. This subject's webinar is the Ossia CMS. This is actually part 1 from a series of about 5 or 6 different parts. It will contain every different aspect of the software. I'm going to try to cover every bit of information that is needed to know. And we are going to start from the installation. So today we will see how to install both the Ossia CMS standard and the Ossia CMS Enterprise. A few words about the differences about them. Of course, in part 2 there is we talk a bit longer about the differences between them. But long story short, Ossia CMS standard is a free version. It is intended mainly for personal use, for a regular household. It has a limit of 256 different channels, so you cannot connect more than 256 different cameras into that system. If you have 256 different NVRs that each one has one channel, then this is okay, but not more than that. Of course, it lacks a few of the features that the Ossia CMS Enterprise has, such as face attendance, face greetings. Of course, we talk more deeply about it later on. And the Enterprise version is a different thing. Basically, it is intended for large corporations, large organizations. The architecture is different. It is client server based. It means that there is one management server that actually holds all of the data that replicates into the different NVRs on the field. So we have one server that contains the recordings, for example, that contains the devices themselves, contains the settings on the devices, the users, the face recognition database. This is also one of the features, of course, probably you know. So that server actually holds all of the information and dumps it into the NVRs. So basically, if you add or remove an NVR from your organization that can contain even 1,000 different devices, then all of the data that you want to have on the NVR will automatically be added to that NVR, or of course removed if you remove an NVR from the server. So this is a much more convenient way to manage and control a series of devices, in case you have a lot of devices. So of course, we have the form that can help you decide what will be the best version for you. And I think we can start with the installation. So we are going to start by going into the Provision-Isr's website and download the CMS. So as you can see, inside products, software and apps, we can find the Ossia CMS, the standard version. Later on, we're going to talk about the enterprise version, and this is a version that is not, you cannot download it from the site itself, just get it from us. So you know it already, the website we're going to download, and then download the application. Of course, that I already I downloaded it. The installation itself is very, very simple. Just double click it, yes, and it's a couple of next. As you can see here, choose the language and let it work a little bit. Of course, that I'm stopping and resuming the recording, so you don't have to wait a lot of time. But installation might take like a couple of minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, not really long. Now you can see on the bottom left that we have the new icon, the monitor client. And ignore the server tray UI. This is for the enterprise, which is coming up next. Monitor client. Once the installation is finished, we can press it. Of course, we're gonna have to open it as an administrator. I'm gonna show it in a second. We're gonna untick the launch software, so we have the opportunity to go into the properties and select run as administrator all the time, so we don't encounter any trouble. Of course, that this thing is temporary. In the further in the upcoming versions, there won't be necessary to even do that. But just in case, we're gonna run it as an administrator. Of course, this is a one-time click and open the software. So Next thing is to insert the username and password, which are admin and 12345 6. Those are the default credentials. If you need, just change it, not a problem. Now, if you want to see how to actually use the CMS itself, you can move on to webinar part 2. This is part 1, or only the installation. Part 2 actually starts to explain about all of the features and all of the different things that you can do with the CMS, with demonstrations and live demonstrations and everything. So in order to install the CMS, the enterprise version, first of all, we need to download MySQL. So go into Google like I did here, MySQL, just write download, we choose installer for Windows, MySQL installer for Windows. And we're going to choose download of the bigger version, which is 8.0.20. Those versions are constantly changing. Just make sure you take the latest version. No thanks, just start my download, and we're downloading the MySQL server. Now we're gonna go through how to install it. So this is the file. We're gonna open it and see the settings inside. Nothing really complicated, but just something that is worth watching, because there are a couple of things that needed to be done in a certain order, so the CMS will work properly. Okay, so we're gonna install the MySQL, wait for it to come up. This is the installer. First of all, we're gonna see the interface right in front of us. So we choose the server only option, because our MySQL, our software is going to be installed as a server. And immediately we're going to see the different options. So press execute. That might take a little bit of time, so I speeded up the clock a little bit. And next, and next also we're going to choose the standalone. Now here we can see the network configuration for the MySQL server. Now we can leave it as a default. This is the port that we are going to use. You're going to see it immediately. And just press next. Now here we should choose use legacy authentication method. This is one thing that if you don't do it, then the CMS just won't work. Next is the MySQL password. We're going to choose, in this case, I'm going to choose 1234, but in your case, you should choose something more complicated. Of course, this is just for the example. And add a user. Add a user so that user will be able to change settings on the MySQL itself if it comes to that need. But most of the times we don't touch the MySQL. Everything is being done by the CMS. And again, the password, I put 123456, and we press next. Okay. Now the software takes some time to install itself, and by the time it is done, we press finish, next, and finish. So the next thing that we're going to do is to install the CMS server, the CMS server. So we're going to go into the files that we've downloaded. Once you get the files from us, you're going to get two files, the client and the server. So we start with the server, double click. The installation is easy and fast, but still something to it's better if you follow the instructions in order to do it properly. But basically it's a bunch of next. So press next and install the software, the server. Yet again, that might take a minute or two, and that's it. Launch software, finish. We're gonna do the same thing like before to run as administrator. So double click properties, and we're gonna activate it. It was already on. Perfect. Okay, now here comes the interesting part. Once we open the server tray UI, we're gonna see all of the roles that exist on the server itself. All of the roles are going to work, most of them, except the database server, which is the MySQL server. So we need to configure it. The configuration is so simple. All you have to do is to put the right password. Of course, that in this case, the MySQL server and the Ossia CMS server are on the same machine. So we're gonna use the address of the loopback, the 127.0.0.1. Now, for example, I'm gonna put a wrong password, and you can see that the connection is connection failure. But once it is 1234, then we can connect into the database server connect automatically and fast. And basically, this is it. From here, all we have to do is to install the client, Ossia CMS Enterprise Client. The installation is very similar to the standalone, the standard version that we have installed before. And we're still gonna see it in a few seconds. Okay, good. So of course we press yes, choose your language, okay, and next. Same thing like before. It's a kind of a repetitive thing, but it's important. It's important to activate it as an administrator. And let's open the monitor client. And on the further version, it's going to be unnecessary, and the names are different. They're going to be Ossia CMS server and Ossia CMS client. And we're going to press yes. Username and password, the default ones, admin, and 123456. Authentication server is the server that we've installed, so we're gonna use the loopback address and the default port. In your case, it might be good to tick there the auto login, so it will automatically log in into the system. And this is it. We are all set. Just choose the disk, the drive that where the recordings are going to be saved locally on the computer, and we're ready.